I'm not going to kill you. I am going to strip you of all humanity and make you a machine for eternal food.
So yeah, that's what we're working with this week. Now, I usually put the content warning after the intro, but I'm going to be upfront in saying that if you have a particularly bad time with either of these subjects, SA in all of its forms, or Guro, do not continue. I cannot stress this enough that the games we'll be covering are a lot. They are horror games inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, H.R. Giger, and Zdzisław Bekczynski, blended together with enough sexual content to make this an absolute nightmare to edit. Created by Polish studio Movie Games Lunarium, Lust for Darkness and its sequel, Lust from Beyond, are eldritch horror stories that revolve around a group called the Cult of Ecstasy, and their attempts to enter the realm of the lustful god Lauverbrak, where they will experience nothing but physical pleasure. The first game is a brisk 2 to 3 hours, while the sequel stretches a bit further to around 10 hours. More if you try to be a completionist about it, which I did not, because I had had enough. So let's get into it, shall we? If you enjoy this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and drop a comment telling me your experience with the game. We begin our journey in Lust for Darkness listening to a conversation between Amanda Moon and her husband Jonathan, discussing the dangers of a potential stalker after Amanda was followed home. And considering she's waking up in a cell right now, I'd say the danger was imminent. Getting to her feet, Amanda finds roses, a letter, and a key to the door. The letter talks about a romantic date that Amanda has no knowledge of, and she understandably tries to escape this eyes-wide-shut nightmare in the making, navigating her way through the spooky basement until it becomes clear that her only path forward has led her to a bedroom. A bedroom decked out in a variety of implements, tools, boudoir boredom banishers, if you will. For those of you who are just listening, I need to stress the fact that this room is 100% meant to be a sex dungeon. Upon investigating a weird yonic statue in the far corner, Amanda is immediately accosted by a tall, creepy dude wearing a mask with antlers growing out of his head. It fades back to the empty cell, and we hear Amanda vocalizing from distress to pleasure. My suffering is off to a great start. A year passes, and we're now playing as Jonathan Moon, noteworthy architect and grieving husband who just wants to find out what happened to his wife. Lucky for him, a mysterious letter is slipped under his door inviting him to a mansion on the edge of town. And who was this letter sent by? His missing wife! Now, if the story of Silent Hill 2 has taught me anything, it's that this kind of scenario can only go well for him. Arriving at the suspicious mansion by midnight, Jonathan sneaks into the garden and past some guards to find a cult outfit left for him by Amanda so he can blend in, mask included because these people love wearing masks. This allows him to walk around without being accosted and listen in on the cultists talk about their obsessions with a realm called Lustgar, which is a world riddled with phallic and yonic imagery, as one might expect, and promises eternal pleasure to those who seek it. You may correctly assume seeking out such a place in a cosmic horror setting is not the best thing to do for one's mental or physical health, but whatever, it's fine. The letter from Amanda said to look for a woman in a white dress, and once inside we follow one such woman to Amanda's room, a normal, plush space rather than a dingy cell, indicating that she's been staying at the mansion all this time and without obvious restraint. I'm sure this doesn't indicate any brainwashing or eldritch corruption, it's fine, don't worry about it. Since Amanda straight up vanished into thin air once we followed her, we head back out to the foyer where the cultists were gathering, only to hear classical music and find that everyone left their clothes behind, which is apparently a disturbing enough sight that it starts to make John lose sanity. The hall beyond contains a hedonistic orgy scene where everyone is just kind of slowly bumping and grinding on each other in the mildest show of supposed debauchery one could imagine. At least in my opinion, it was just funny to me that, again, this is enough to lower the protagonist's sanity. I don't think this is what anyone meant when they called the genre Lovecraft. That is the funniest joke I've written into this script. It's all downhill from here. Navigating through the throng of tangled bodies brings us to an auditorium where more people are getting freaky on stage, and while our back is turned, things go completely sideways as a portal to Lusgar opens, leaving all the frisky participants dead or mutilated. Naturally, the next rational thing to do is go into the portal that is currently impaling someone the wrong way. Within Lusgar, John has to navigate through wet, fleshy chambers and tunnels, with the occasional puzzle impeding his progress, and a variety of weird or disturbing statues to look at. Occasionally, he has to run away from a native denizen of Lusgar, as he has the durability of wet tissue paper and will go down in one hit, but at least he does in fact go down, unlike certain Caped Crusaders. During this first foray, he gets a spooky new mask out of it, which is definitely okay to put on your face even though it actively damages your sanity, but don't worry about it. This mask allows him to see pathways he wouldn't otherwise be able to cross. The portals pop up all over the mansion, as it was built to correspond with this specific area of Lusgar, so John eventually finds his way back out and into the human world. This just so happens to drop him into the study of Willard Yelverton, the cult's overbearing leader and the guy we saw at the beginning. Thankfully, he isn't there, and Jonathan gets to talk to Amanda through a glass door, who tells him she was pregnant when she was taken and their child is in the mansion behind a door with a crown symbol. She then proceeds to vanish again, having fulfilled her role as quest NPC. Finding the room is no issue, but getting inside it is, necessitating another trip through Cthulhu's Sin Grotto. Unfortunately, when we get in there, the room is empty save for a picture of the child, who is depicted with a scarred lip, and John assumes Willard is responsible for it. Finding a piece of paper in the baby's room with piano notes on it, we return to Willard's study and play the notes. This opens a hidden chamber with an exam table and medical equipment, and inside we find a report that states Amanda had an abortion. So the child she had can't be John's. Oh boy. Before he can fully react to this information, Jonathan is jumped by Willard and dragged across the floor to a portal, all the while Willard confirms he scraped everything that was connected to John from inside Amanda and replaced it with his own. John is thrown back into Lusgar without a party mask and manages to work his way back out into the mansion, sneak around the cultists, retrieve a new mask from a murdered participant, and get jump-scared by a woman having some solo fun behind another glass door. From there, he's caught out by Willard again and slowly chased back to a portal again, back into Lusgar again. Finding his way through these torrid chambers once more, John eventually discovers the child Willard had with Amanda sleeping in a chitinous cot, already showing physical changes thanks to the eldritch energy of the realm. Willard shows up to protect his child and threatens to strip John of all humanity and make him a machine for eternal and that's the point where I lost it. John runs away from Willard, kites him into destroying a door with his lust spells, don't worry about it, allowing John to run to another door, open it to let out some local monsters who jump Willard, and finally escape. On the way out, John picks up a new mask that forces the local creatures to stay away from him, allowing him to walk by without getting unceremoniously impaled. He finds some of the cultists from the mansion in a state of gory ecstasy, either using each other to the point of mutilation or being used by some of the creatures here to the point of death. It's a lot. Returning to the mansion, we find a hidden door to the basement level and release Amanda from her cell, but not before Willard pops back up to say some cryptic bullshit and slit his own throat. Alright then. Amanda breaks down in John's arms and he tries to comfort her, only for Amanda to say that she wanted what happened to her, that everything that happened here was what she wanted, and screams at John to leave her here alone. We do not have time to unpack everything here, so I'm throwing that suitcase into the future. You'll just have to tune in next time. John does not leave her behind and gets her out of the mansion, whereupon she burns it down using the many lit candles scattered around the building. Good for her. Cut to 2 years later, the couple have had a baby of their own, the house is looking much tidier than it did in the beginning, and everything is fine. All we have to do is go say hi to our lovely wife. Only to find her naked and gyrating on the bed with a portal to Lusgar open above it, whereupon she says, "Willard was right, let's fuck." And then I lost it again.
Willard was right. Let's fuck.
So what about that sequel, huh? So, Lust from Beyond. There is a free prologue to this game, and I refuse to experience any more of this setting, so we're going to have a rundown of what happens in the main plot. Because the story decided to blend the eldritch madness was too strong to resist with survivor has a hypersexual reaction to their trauma, which was definitely a good narrative decision with no drawbacks, Amanda has become the new leader of the Cult of Ecstasy. She retrieves a creature from Lustgar and brings it back to a spooky mansion where a man called Theodore prepares it for a ritual. This ritual involves Amanda drinking a ghostly red liquid, and naturally everyone else present starts getting freaky with each other. This is done so Amanda can reach out to a new seeing one like her, an individual who is sensitive to the horny vibes of Lustgar. We cut to an antique dealer called Victor Holloway closing up shop and preparing for a romantic night with his fiancée Lily, laying out wine, rose petals, and a brand new guitar because she plays in a band. This is interrupted by Amanda's succulent vibes, making his vision wobbly, and when he and Lily are going at it later, he goes too fast and has to be pushed off her. Afterwards, he experiences a nightmare of Lustgar and backhands Lily when she tries to comfort him upon waking up and falling out of bed. Off to a great start. Sometime later, Lily is still with Victor, but has hooked him up with a doctor who can help him through his issues, Charles Austerlitz. This is a name we saw in the first game's lore entries due to a philosopher called Doreen Austerlitz, whose work was foundational to the Cult of Ecstasy. The Doctor practices out of Bleakmoor, a creepy old town in the middle of a festival that leaves it looking like a rejected level from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Unfortunately, Victor was held up by traffic, the Doctor isn't in by the time he gets there, and his phone is out of battery. Thankfully, there's a payphone he can use to call the Doctor after we retrieve a flyer with the office number on it. Austerlitz wants to see him right away, but Victor is tired from the trip and wants to see him tomorrow. This is almost a problem because the Doctor is fully booked, only for him to say a slot just opened up, and that Victor can stay at the local hotel due to a cancellation from one of his patients he didn't notice. The patient had a room paid for by the Doctor, so Victor just has to drop the Doctor's name at the desk, and he'll have a room key. How convenient and not suspicious at all. Once there, he calls Lily from the hotel phone to let her know what happened, and that the vibes are all the way off. It doesn't help that Danny, the creepy hotel manager, is creepy. Settling into the creepy hotel, Victor is disturbed from sleep by a gang of bloodthirsty leather daddies and has to Jason Bourne his way to safety across the rooftops. He eventually falls through the floor of one building and gets his hands on a knife, which is meant to be used as a last resort, but I took as a challenge. We get Victor to the Eden Theatre in the hopes of finding police, or some kind of authority that can help, since that's where everyone is apparently, but all we can find is more cultists and a woman called Rhea to boss Victor around from her ominous balcony. This involves making him move props on the theatre stage, light candles and incense, and remove the dismembered parts of a dead woman from a cross, discarding said parts in a large bin backstage labelled "Fuck Toys." On the last trip, Danny shows up when he accidentally opens the door to the underground while Victor is there and flees upon being spotted. Well, no surprise he's involved with these violent freaks. And I want to stop here for a second to make a distinction. This group is called the Scarlet Lodge, and they're positioned as worse, or at least enemies to the Cult of Ecstasy, because they're more violent. But the visual trappings of their group are pulled from BDSM, leather balls, fetishists, and the like. Those aren't inherently evil or of lesser moral character just because they engage in things that polite society finds uncomfortable, overwhelming, or unnatural, whatever that means. Like, these are the kinds of things I would hope a game with this subject matter would explore, the hang-ups people have with it, our relationship to it. Alas, it is more set dressing than substance. The underground does not offer escape to Victor as he is gassed into unconsciousness. He awakens tied to the cross on the stage where Austerlitz is talking to Rhea and sends her away. He proceeds to greet Victor and explain that he leads this group of sadists, that Victor is a seeing one, and that he needs Victor's help to retrieve a book written by his grandmother Doreen from Lustgar, The Nature of Universes. Now, transportation to the land of ecstasy happens a few ways: dreams and visions, physical portals, and... guess which one is employed here while Victor is helpless on the cross? Yeah. Dropping into Lustgar, we navigate around various puzzles and dangers until we get the book and return to our point of entry. Victor places the book on a pedestal on the stage and makes a break for it, only to get nabbed at the doors. He's knocked out and wakes up to a cultist using his body right there on the floor, only for someone off-screen to ventilate that cultist's brain case, and we see Jonathan and Amanda standing by the doors, seemingly here to rescue Victor. Next time we wake up, Victor is in the mansion with the Cult of Ecstasy, and talks to various members to learn about what happened at the theatre, and specifically learns what being a seeing one means in the scheme of things from Sabinian, Amanda's right-hand man. Sabinian gives Victor a key to his room so he can access a vault of burner phones and call Lily to tell her he's still alive. Naturally, she's worried sick about him and wants him to go to the police, but they're working with the Scarlet Lodge, so that's a no-go. He can't tell her much more, however, as we're interrupted by Amanda yelling from the front door that there's an injured man they need to help. We find her and Jonathan bring a man called Bobby into the mansion, and Victor is sent for medication to help him, which leads to us walking in on Donald and Dominic, the conjoined twins of the group, going to the toilet completely naked. Anyway, we get the medication to Bobby, talk to Jonathan a little, get jump-scared by the twins wearing a Scarlet Lodge mask, and let the shy girl Mabel read us some tarot cards. It's clear that Jonathan has been thoroughly messed up by the events of the last game and being dragged into the cult as a member by Amanda, talking with a stutter and other nervous affectations. Finally, talking to Amanda herself, she reveals that it was indeed her speaking to Victor through the dreams, and takes him on a tour of Lustgar through a portal, since she can open those at will. Using a portal means Victor arrives with all his items and his clothes on, a welcome change to his usual birthday suit. Amanda teaches him more about Lustgar, showing him how to harness the magic or essence of the realm, and how to use the corrupt Garne infecting the realm to reach areas we otherwise couldn't. We eventually reach a large room and a gate to something called the Zuthrar, a mechanism that could heal Lustgar of its corruption if we could only open the gate. It hasn't responded to Amanda's efforts, but it does respond when Victor touches it, giving him a vision of what to do next. Amanda explains that without opening the gate, Victor's visions won't cease, as those are actually cries for help from the lustful god Lauvabrak. Which I definitely believe. Returning to the mansion, Victor goes to call Lily to update her on the situation, but it turns out Austerlitz has her now. Jonathan holds Victor at gunpoint until he breaks the phone so he can't give away any information that would endanger the group, which on one hand is understandable, but at the same time, y'all are the reason any of this is happening to begin with. After some back and forth with various members of the group and Amanda herself, Jonathan agrees to help rescue Lily, which involves getting him dressed up in Scarlet Lodge clothes so that he can infiltrate as a callback to the last game. We take the robe from Sabinian, who is playing double agent with the Lodge, and get the mask from the twins. Back in the theater, Jonathan successfully gets inside and opens the door for Victor. The two descend into the underground, and Jonathan believes Lily is being kept in the Hall of Whispers, which we need 3 golden hands to open. So we need to wade through a sea of unhinged debauchery to find them. Victor works his way through various puzzles to open the Hall of Whispers, finding many gruesome sights along the way that would absolutely get me nailed to the wall by YouTube if I went into detail. Let's just say the Scarlet Lodge stops just shy of turning this into the video game equivalent of a Serbian film. By which I mean that I want to believe there's a greater context and message to this game, but it's lost somewhere between multiple and whatever in Christ's name happened to Amanda's face at the end. Halfway through our sordid treasure hunt, we run into Sabinian, who warns us to get out of there and is convinced by Victor to help, which he tries to do by calling everyone to the hall for some cult scripture readings, but Austerlitz immediately vetoes that and outs him as a spy. So much for that. Earlier in the game, Lily referenced a man called Tim, who was also helped by Austerlitz and became a functional member of society again after struggling with his excessive foot fetish. You find him down here in a cell, dismembered feet hanging from the ceiling, where he is slowly twisting and tearing the entire leg off a dead woman, that he later uses to attack you with. He also has pierced nipples, a harness, a ball gag, and is the only fat person in the game because, of course. And I didn't even mention the big room full of naked corpses hanging from the ceiling in various stages of degradation and damage, because at this point everything was starting to blur together in the worst soup imaginable. Opening the Hall of Whispers reveals that Lily isn't inside, but we do find a key with a chaos symbol. Jonathan warns us it's too dangerous to keep going, but we head through the door with the same symbol and run right into Lily, dressed up in Scarlet Lodge gear. Oh, she's a member, isn't she? She apologizes before ratting out Victor, and he's captured by the Lodge, thrown into a cell, and tortured by Rhea for an undetermined amount of time. He's eventually released for the sole purpose of sending him into Lustgar again, and this is once more achieved by you know exactly what. Released into the land of ecstasy, Victor navigates through puzzles and dangers until he finds the Chamber of Change as Austerlitz asked him to, but just as he enters that area, it all goes white. And we return to the human world where Victor's arms and legs show significant corruption and damage. He can't recall anything about what happened, and only mumbles the name of the lustful god. Rhea is so disturbed by his state that she walks away, and Austerlitz is devastated, remarking that Victor was supposed to liberate them, but has only confirmed that there's no escape from the maddening grasp of Lustgar. Because I'm supposed to believe that this man who indulged everyone's worst impulses here was actually trying to do the right thing. Victor is left shackled to the wall, slipping in and out of unconsciousness until Lily visits him, disturbed by his state and disgusted by what the Lodge has done to him.
Miss Man, you are a part of the Lodge. How is this the line for you?
Anyway, she leaves him with his equipment, a gun, and the key to escape, and leaves. So it's time to clean house. Victor proceeds to expeditiously euthanize any cult members in his way until he finds Austerlitz waltzing with Rhea's corpse, and we can't have that, so we head down to deal with the old creep, only for him to drop the body and hide, allowing Tim to enter the room for a boss fight. We lure him into some steam pipes so that our bullets actually hurt him, because that's how fat works, it's basically indestructible padding, and walk out in time to hear Jonathan yell that he's cornered Austerlitz in the Hall of Whispers. He tries to play off everything he's done as just trying to escape the clutches of Lustgar and stop Amanda from bonding with the lustful god, but I had no patience for that at this point and got rid of him when I had the chance. For those of you just listening, killing Austerlitz results in Victor shoving the gun barrel into his mouth. Symbolism. We're about to leave when we hear guitar music drift through the chaos door. Jonathan warns Victor about going after Lily again, and says specifically that Victor will end up like him, the peculiar, stuttering shell of a man bound to Amanda's will. Victor doesn't listen, and we head down, finding Lily on a bed playing the guitar Victor got her at the beginning. Their conversation reveals that Victor was a target. Lily was a member of the Lodge from the start, and Victor was just a mark, but against her better judgment, she did come to genuinely love him. At his insistence that he still loves her despite everything, Lily concedes that maybe there is a future for them and that she loves him, which is too bad because Jonathan shoots her in the back of the head, sending Victor into a spiraling blackout. Rest in pieces, I guess. We wake up in the mansion again, where Mabel tries to encourage us to rest more, but Victor is too angry for that, understandably so. Finding everyone else in the ritual hall, we confront Amanda only for her to tell us that this is the moment Victor is initiated into the group, so that he can help them save Lustgar. Victor doesn't want anything to do with that right now, and Amanda just casually sells out her husband by telling Victor he's just behind him. Chasing him to the front door, we're given a choice to kill him or throw him out, and I opted for the latter because goddammit this man has been through enough. I mean, so has Amanda in my opinion, but she's the one who's been written as the one behind everything and the major villain by the end of the game, so After Jonathan is banished, Amanda implores Victor to help them, insisting that it's the only way his visions will stop, which he is just desperate enough to believe. 6 months pass by, and Victor is reading The Nature of Universes, the book by Doreen Austerlitz, which is foundational to the cult of ecstasy, but it seems there are some gaps in the book, which means he's hit a roadblock. The clock rings that it's time for the next ritual, and he dons his mask, descending into the dining hall where everyone is getting frisky. Partaking in the ritual for a bit, Victor talks to Theodore about the gaps and is pointed to the Journal of Lassie, an important figure to the group. The journal's contents confirm that their copy of The Nature of Universes is incomplete. Mabel confides in us that Bobby, the injured man we helped earlier in the story, is missing now, and she worries something terrible has happened. A man called Christopher joined their group a while back and went missing under similar circumstances. This is the person you play as in the prologue, and you can run into what remains of him later. Moving on, we follow a trail of candles and discarded clothes, leading Victor to a portal opened in the living room that was clearly left by Amanda. Working our way through more puzzles and dangers brings us to the Chamber of Trinity, where Amanda is waiting naked on a platform next to the melted body of some poor unfortunate soul, don't worry about him. 3 statues surround the platform, each representing a god of Lustgar. Akmalale, the inspired mistress, who led the cast of Seekers and was basically the sorceress of the group, who was best at manipulating the essence. She joined in on Lavabrock's plan to turn everyone in Lustgar into beings that would only ever experience ecstasy, even though on the face of that it is a terrible plan and demonstrably has been. Amanda is the avatar of this god. Lavabrock, the lustful god, is the one who caused all this to happen and is the one crying out to fix Lustgar by activating the Zuthrar. Ugro Ekna, the Great Liberator, belonged to the caste of the Omniscients, focused on science and rationality. He betrayed the Omniscients and aided Lavabrock in turning Lustgar into what we've seen thus far. Also a terrible decision. It's at this point that Amanda reveals her background to Victor, that she was taken by Willard Yelverton, raped and impregnated by him, and the resulting child was then given to the land of Lustgar, opening a portal. If it were my decision, this sequel would have been about her burning this cult and the wretched world it spawned from to the ground, but whatever. This is fine. So anyway, they go to Pound Town and Victor is an avatar of Ugro Ekna now. Back in the real world, Victor finishes drawing the seal of a gate after studying the nature of universes some more, and goes to tell Amanda about a mask he thinks he can retrieve that'll allow him to open the Zuthrar gate. We gear up to undertake this mission, talking to Mabel again while we do so she can tell Victor about her doubts regarding Amanda's intentions, but I'm sure it'll all work out just fine. Strapped with a revolver and enough bullets to supply the American military for a week, we set off into Lustgar once more to retrieve the mask of the Great Liberator. You can choose to have a tender farewell with Amanda before you go, which, sure. Off to the Land of Ecstasy, we once again work our way through many puzzles and dangers, the latter of which can be solved quite easily now that we can cast the most powerful spell of all, Bullet. What's interesting here is that you can reach a lore drop with a little extra effort, and this reveals a condemnation of what Lavabrock did to Lustgar as an extreme that has led to nothing but stagnancy. There's no advancement, no higher purpose, no change, no culture, no society, nothing but the singular instinct to satisfy lust. There is something interesting to explore in the world building, a tale of cycling transformation and progress brought to a halt by extreme hedonism. But you could have replaced the sexual element with a garden variety utopia where you can only feel happiness, and the story would be functionally the same. There's no actual exploration of that subject matter as it relates to people. Anyway, we get the mask and it looks cool, far less organic than anything else we've seen in Lustgar up to this point. Returning to the mansion, we're stopped by the twins, who greet us by calling Victor a prick and punching his lights out. Getting back up, the twins have stolen the mask for some reason, and we don't even get a chance to ask them what's up with that, because we immediately run into them. We run into Donald because Dominic has been ripped off of him. Alright then. Searching the dark and empty mansion, we find the symbol of Lavabrock lying broken on the dining room floor, and find Theodore in the ritual hall. He reveals that there was a rebellion while Victor was gone, and Amanda has left for Zuthrar with the mask Victor retrieved. Before we can catch up with her, we find Mabel on the landing. She convinced the twins to search Amanda's room, and wouldn't you know it, they found the missing pages from the Nature of Universes. Amanda has been sneaking around and lying to us. Shocker. But why would she do this, you ask? Because those pages reveal that Zuthrar isn't a healing mechanism. It's a prison. It's holding the lustful god, and those cries heard by seeing ones aren't to heal Lustgar, but to free Lavabrock. I mean, it is an eldritch horror, so that tracks. Chasing after Amanda, Victor confronts her at the gate. They go back and forth a bit over whether it's good or bad to trap everyone on Earth in a perpetual state of ecstasy against their will, because something the world sucks anyway, so who cares about saving it? Do not make me tap the sign about how nihilism is for sad little losers. This exchange results in the first stage of her boss battle, where we drop a bridge out from under her feet so she seemingly falls to her death, but just like Willard, she pops up again, this time in a heavily mutated form. Throughout this second stage, Amanda continues to, well, it's not really arguing her point so much as threatening. I want to stress that at this point of the game, I was pretty numb, I had zoned out, I had vacated the building, and I just wanted to finish it so I could move on to something else. But then she said this. And once more with feeling, massive trigger warning. She says, and I quote, The freeing of Lavabrock will be rape for the Earth, but they will like it in the end. I know because I did. When I tell you hearing this was like being woken up because someone threw a bucket of ice water in my face, I swear to God. Amanda teleports out of there after taking too much damage, so we seek her out one final time, finding her with her legs open and trying to convince Victor to fuck her and help free the lustful god. I wanted to be done with this, so I chose to object, and while I personally think that rejecting this is the correct choice to make, I was not prepared to watch Victor's point of view while he stabbed Miss Ma'am in the pussy with a knife before stabbing her to death elsewhere. There is so much to unpack here, but we can do that next time if making this doesn't kill me first. Anyway, sometime later, Victor has returned to his old life at the antique store. He seems to be managing, mostly through internet porn and a very unhygienic-looking fleshlight, until he gets a call from a regular client who asks him a few too many questions about how life has been lately. He's asked what his most beautiful memory is, which leads us to a flashback of the moment he entered the Chamber of Change. Remember when that was whited out for us before? Yeah. Here, Victor descends into the basin and engages in tireless acts of lust with the creatures there, his body marked by the corruption. The memories of this prove too much for him, and as voices of different memories grow louder and louder, he redacts himself from the census. We get a few ending slides regarding the surviving characters, the most notable of which is Jonathan, who manages to move on and make a normal life for himself, so at least someone got out of this relatively okay. There is going to be so much to unpack when we follow up on this with the next storyboard video, so look forward to that. Jesus Christ. With that, we are done with the story of Lust for Darkness and Lust from Beyond. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to stay up to date on all future uploads. I also stream on Twitch every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 PM GMT. I just openly brag about how much of a slut I am. Yeah. It puts out the correct message.
Hello, baby. My dingle dongle is all wingle wongle for you.
I made an excellent choice creating that option. Thank you all for watching, and special shoutouts to my patrons who are all very handsome people. If you'd also like to be called a very handsome people, check out the link in the description where you can support me from just £1 a month. Don't forget to drink your water, take your medication, and treat yourselves kindly, and I will see you all next time.